Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 99, just
Oh
one
yeah,
away from
the
that big
penultimate
100.
episode. Oh
Oh,
yes,
yes. Crazy. We're almost at 100 episodes. Absolutely fucking bonkers.
and
Um,
no sign of slowing down. Let's
no,
go.
sir. My name is Dan. I am your gracious host, joined by, as always, my bestest pal, Anthony.
Hello.
And hello. And we are going to be talking about all the things of video games that at least pop up on our radar. Um, but not before we talk about what we have been playing this week. I think, did you go last week or did I go first? I don't remember.
I think I went last next week. If you want, I can go first this week because I don't really have not really too much to speak of this week with me.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I played more Street Fighter. Been
Shocker.
grinding that out a little bit. Yeah, I know, big shocker. um, what did I play? We've been playing a little bit more of the finals than lately. We've been feeling out season 10, which
Well,
I
I wouldn't go that far, especially the way that the last PlayStation ended.
I mean, you can. I'm sure you have a lot to say. We'll save it for your side of things, but say what you will. We have been playing more than we have been recently.
Yeah,
I'll put it
okay,
that
fair,
way.
fair,
Yes.
yeah.
Obviously, I played a bit of finals with Harrison. Also, me and him played some Marvel vs. Capcom the other day because we always end up getting dragged back to that. Just something in the ether always drags us back in one point or the other. And I really think that's it. I know there was a few things I wanted to start that I just haven't set up yet, like for some reason, like I know it's still Resident Evil. I really wanted to play Resident Evil Revelations again, like a full playthrough, but
Okay.
I don't have my 3DS with me, so I can't play the original version of it. I surprisingly don't own a digital copy from all the different sales they run, so it's just I can't download it anywhere. I don't know where my physical copy went of the HD version, so it's just one I haven't been able to play. And if I emulate it, I don't want to emulate the 3DS version unless I'm doing some kind of comparison thing. So I've just been shit out of luck there. So maybe I'll have more to say on that next week. But yeah, nothing major for me this week. Nothing major.
All right, all right. As far as I go, not as big of a list as last week, but kind of my mainstays. I did, however, start Village. I've been putting a little bit of progress in there. I've honestly been taking a little bit of a palate cleanser break in between Resident Evil games, just because I don't know how many times I could say it. I won't stop saying it, but I am not a huge like just a straight up hardcore horror fan. I'll play the games obviously because I do like the writing overall in Resident Evil. I just like the universe, but I don't like to be scared for the sake of being scared. I'm just not a fan of that. So after I beat seven, and I finished the Not a Hero DLC
Yes, that's right.
in between last week and this week, which was, like you said, much more action oriented, and
Mm.
it was a nice change of pace to like actually be the one in the position to just fuck up the molded and not have to really worry about much. I mean, granted, you still have to manage your resources and everything, but it was a nice change of pace. But that one maze part of the story DLC, where like you're trapped in the catacombs or
Where you the place you need the night vision for, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That it didn't bother me. It just it was a bit much, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't really know because like you had those turrets around, and I didn't realize it, but you could crouch, and the motion detector just apparently stops working. So that was
Mhm.
cool. I lured a couple of the molded in front of those. That was an easy kill. Um, but I guess they really just used that add on as an epilogue to the main story because you never dispatched Lucas as Ethan, so he ended up getting away at the end of Resident Evil 7, and then Not a Hero picks up like within the next 5 minutes of Ethan being him and Mia being medevaced out of from the helicopter. But it was nice to get to use some actual powerful weapons and take those things out in one hit. So
Yeah.
I finished that. It wasn't too long. It wasn't that bad. And then I started Village, and my God, dude, like Ethan really is kind of a moron. Um, and don't get me wrong, I'm very intrigued by how the game opened up with uh, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess. If you haven't played the game, you've had more than enough time, and I'm just making my way through it for the first time now. But the game opens up with, I guess, Chris's team ambushing the Winters house, and from how far I got, they just straight up fucking smoke Mia. They just pump her full of lead, and then they take Ethan's baby Rose, and that was it. Like then you know that's when the game actually starts. So I'm very intrigued to know the reason behind all that and see where the story goes. But like you venture into the town and you meet this old man with this double barrel shotgun that's defending himself from those werewolf things that are out and about, and he goes. Do you have a gun? And then Ethan's response is, why would I have a gun? Like, motherfucker, all the shit that you just went through, you don't just like stay strapped at all times now?
It's funny that you mentioned that. There is a part at a certain point. It's not a major spoiler, but it is mentioned that after 7, he did get like Chris hooked him up with like training.
Yes. Yeah, that was in the first like minutes of the game.
Yeah.
That was like although the military training from Chris and blah 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 blah. Like motherfucker, you know what's out there. You don't just have a gun just in case. And like when somebody asks you if you have one, your response is, "Why would I have one?" That pissed me off so much because yeah, we live in New York. It's a very blue state, but I really. I like guns. I'm really into firearms. My father owned like a fucking armory, so I've been around them a lot, and I like shooting them. And just to like hear the mentality of that, I'm just like, you fucking idiot, you goddamn moron. But so far, that's my only gripe with the game.
Okay.
So I just started Village, and I'm still in like the first Village playable space. So I'll keep you posted next week.
Okay.
Let's see. I've been playing a little bit more Darktide because of the Expedition game mode. That's been a good time. Put a little bit more time into Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War, and I actually want to talk about Starship Troopers Extermination. That is a different game. I originally thought Ultimate Bug War was some sort of expansion or something for Extermination. Not the case. Completely separate game. From the same people who made Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, and I love that one. So I scooped it up. I've been putting some time into it. Like you mentioned, we've been playing the finals, and I have been putting a lot of time into the Division 2. They had their 10-year anniversary event like a week or two ago, and I scooped up the Ultimate Edition for like $12 or something on Steam. And in the Destiny-shaped void in my gaming life right now, I wasn't like looking to get into another looter shooter, but I've always kind of watched the Division from afar, just as like, the expression like game begets game, or like game recognized game, right? Like that. That's the expression. That's always been my outlook on the Division. So I bought everything for like 90% off or whatever it was, and I started. I didn't start a new character. I resumed off of my existing one. And I have put, oh god, how much time? Almost 40 hours in at this point. Yeah, I put a lot of time in. But like, the gameplay itself feels really good as a third-person shooter. It's not necessarily a cover-based shooter, as you constantly fucking correct me. But it feels good as a third-person shooter. The RPG elements are way more in-depth than Destiny ever was. And the way that Massive has handled the overall progression it's been 10 years since the Division 1. It's been about 6 or 7 since the Division 2. And I played through the main campaign when the Division 2 first launched, and then I put it down pretty quickly after that. But the things that they've added to the game since I last played is like mind-boggling. The progression for all the weapons, like the way that you build out your character, the gear set system now, the expertise system, the tinkering system. It's all it's a lot to dive into, especially if you've never played or you're coming back like I am. So I don't know how much time I'm going to put into it, but so far I'm going strong. And it's not a secret. Massive already announced that they're working on a Division 3, and to quote their creative director, it is shaping up to be a monster. That's what he said about it. But I've been having a good time with it. I actually met some dude like in a match-made game, and every time that I've logged on, I get like a message from him, like from like the game chat, and he just starts running missions with me, doing what I need to do to like get powered up and everything. So the thing that really dragged me into Destiny way back when I found a clan of people that was as into the game as I was, and it's kind of starting again with the Division. So we'll see where that goes. There's only one guy and he's not on a mic, so yeah, how far could that possibly go?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's what I've been playing. Kind of my usual, with the exception of Resident Evil, and
Yeah.
I guess the Division isn't really my usual, but it's in the same. It's Destiny adjacent. Um, so yeah, that's what I've been playing this week. Next
right.
week will probably be largely the same. Um, but to springboard off of that, since a lot of the stuff that we were going to talk about anyway has to do with the games that we have been playing this past week, we might as well just dive into that
Sure.
and not to like get it out of the way, but it's a only meaningful transition point from
Yeah.
right here.
That's fine.
All right, so let's see. I guess we could start with not the division, the finals.
Okay, go for it.
Season 10 launched yesterday or 2 days ago, something like
Yeah.
that.
A few
And
days
so
ago.
they added a new gadget and weapon for the medium class, a new map, a lot of quality of life changes. You know, they always do this sweeping balance pass with all the weapons and gear and everything in the game. So we dove in and to see how it is. And I mean, it's still the same old finals, right? Like nothing is drastically different. I really do like the new map. I think it's a far cry from the current or from like everything that they've added up until this point. It's out in like this fantasy map, right? There's this castle this in the distance. You play in basically like the village area of the castle. It's outside. You're not in the middle of a stadium, which I think was a pretty cool touch. You're just like you're fighting in this medieval village, and all
Yeah.
the cosmetics are medieval themed. But the thing that I actually like the most about the panel that I watched for the finals from Embark was what they said going into the future for the game. They don't plan on stopping development for this game anytime soon. In fact, they said that I think at one point in the last 6 months, somebody was quoted by saying they wanted it to be like a 20-year game, something in that
I know
realm.
we've talked about this before, where they've mentioned, this game. They plan to carry this game on for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of potential. It runs
Yeah.
very well. It feels good to play. You know, man, when we play with Harrison, and I make it this past weekend, it was your brother Nick as well. You know, we haven't played for like 2 weeks, and then we jumped back in with the launch of this new season, and like there were a handful of games that went really well, but towards the end of our play session, we really started getting our shit pushed in. Like, I don't know if that has to do with just luck or like skill-based matchmaking, and I know a lot of people like to use that as a boogeyman, but I'm just saying it very matter-of-factly. To the point where like did Harrison actually uninstall the game? Because he said he was
Probably
going to.
not. I mean, I would assume not. Typically, but
Yeah,
I didn't ask. I didn't do a post game checkup on everybody.
Fair enough. But I like season 10. Now, I've always had this thing with the finals where like I will probably never jump in solo and play like just for the hell of it.
That's not entirely true. When they released that new mode of theirs, you were playing that solo for a hot second.
Yeah, for a hot second, but like it wasn't consistent. I just wanted
gotcha.
to try it out and see what it was like. I kind of wish that I did feel that way about the finals, but I I don't know. There's really nothing stopping me. There's just too many other things on my gaming plate right now. But I don't know. I like all the stuff that they added to it. I was actually considering buying the season pass for season 10, and then we hit that loss streak yesterday, and everyone kind of fucking fell apart. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll wait on that because I don't know when we're gonna play it next.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are my overall thoughts for season 10 of the finals. The game has a lot of potential still. It's a very solid foundation. Nothing else in video games handles destruction quite like the finals does.
That's something that you pretty much shouted like in one of the first matches. You're like, you got to give it to them for the destruction. You were very like, that's how destruction's supposed to feel. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You talking about yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when Battlefield 6 was revealed and they were going on and on about how great their destruction was, I was sitting there watching, like, okay, it looks cool, like it looks really good from a marketing standpoint, but what is this going to be like in game when you're actually playing the game? Like the only thing that could even stand up to it is the finals, and like that is the bar right now for destruction in video games. And
Yeah.
you and I hopped in for one of our first PlayStations for Battlefield 6, and I mean, both of us were just like, this isn't really exactly what they promised. It was
Yeah.
kind of borderline false advertising, especially if, I have 200 hours in the finals at this point. You're probably very close to me,
Yeah.
if not about the same. And, I think our opinions are very aligned on the at least on the quality of the destruction. Like no other game handles it like that, and we haven't had something like the destruction in the finals since like Red Faction, I want to say,
Hmm.
or even uh, Crackdown 3 maybe. Granted, the game flopped for a multitude of other reasons, but
Yeah.
they were marketing their server-side destruction physics pretty
I don't.
hard.
I don't know if see, they were very ahead of the game with that. So I'm led to believe that it didn't fully materialize in the way that they were initially teasing.
Yeah, but anyway, I like season 10 of the finals. I mean, if you have anything to add beyond what I just said, feel free.
I mean, the only thing I really have to say about it is I do think that they are kind of a bit slower than they used to be with additions to gameplay content. It could also
Yeah,
just
I'll
be
give you
that,
that.
I say this meaning like the weapons, the maps, and the gadgets. And like I know the map side of it is just because we tend to stay in our lane with power shift, and then we try whenever a new mode does an event or something like that. So part of that's on us. But
So, like on the topic of game modes, we'll probably never play Cash Out, and that's fine. Like, I don't think the flow is really right for us as a group.
mhm.
Um, Power Shift, phenomenal mode. We all of us really really like it. I think that what was it called? Point Break or Breakthrough? Point Break.
Yeah.
I think Point Break is Breakthrough is the Battlefield mode.
Yeah.
I think that Breakthrough can be as good, but I don't think we give it much of a chance as a group,
Mhm.
and it's kind of a shame, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
But anyway, I mean that's all I really have to say on the finals. It's a lot of good things, but they haven't done anything massive. It's not like they're adding an expansion to the game or adding new game modes every 3 months or whatever it is. It's got its following, and it probably won't go anywhere, and that's okay. So, yeah.
All right.
Let's see. What else? There was something else that we talked about what we've been playing this week that directly related to something else that we were going to bring up in the news. I am blanking on this for some reason. Oh, Starship Troopers, maybe.
There
Yeah,
you go. There you go.
yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so as I said before, I've been playing through Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War. Totally different game from Extermination. Extermination is made by Offworld, the same studio that makes Squad, which makes sense as to why they would pick up this project. So I wanted to touch on it because they got a new content update. They got with update 1.10, they added an exosuit to the game, like this big hulking mech suit, and big fan of that. Really, really cool. I haven't played it yet. I haven't played it in a while, but I was fucking perplexed by this update. Like, it's one thing to add a new gun or a new map or whatever, but they're adding to put a mech in the game means you need to balance everything else around it and make sure that the maps and the geometry and blah 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 are all suitable for for the gameplay of this. Now, I don't know if it's exclusive to a mode, if it, I don't know. I haven't played the game in a while, so I really can't give specifics.
Okay.
I just wanted to touch on it because it's just crazy to me how this game is like being relentlessly updated. And, obviously that's a good thing for anybody who plays it. But to me, from the outside looking in, it just seems like a failing venture in the same way that Killing Floor 3 has been a failing venture so far, because the only player number counts that I have access to are the Steam charts. And every time that I check SteamDB for Starship Troopers, it's always been really, really low. Like right now, it's sitting at 550 in-game. And I always compare it to Killing Floor 3 because Killing Floor 3 also has kind of an abysmal player count. So Killing Floor 3 right now is
it's the rough
532,
spot.
which means, like, please, Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if the game's population is that low on PC, and granted, Killing Floor and Starship Troopers were both mainly marketed towards the PC community, at least I think they were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the console numbers have to be a lot better than that to warrant these publishers and studios to keep pouring money into the project. Like, I don't understand where the motivation is coming from.
Yeah,
You know,
consoles in general are kind of a wild card, just because we can't really see what's going on behind the scenes, and at the same time we hear, like, every other week we hear some story about how PC is the platform of choice, but then you have people
No.
behind. But what I'm getting is that's what everybody keeps saying, and that's what the trends are. It's obviously growing to a certain degree, but at the same time, what you hear about the console numbers is purely, like, you won't even hear about them unless it's a case like this where you have a game that's struggling with the PC numbers that we can see, and they need to do damage control in some way, shape, or form. You know?
Right. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I am unsure if Starship Troopers Extermination is available on the Epic Game Store. I mean, I feel like it would be, and we don't have access to those player counts. So, like, there's a bunch of different storefronts and platforms that people play on that we have no idea what the population is like, and that obviously all comes into that all has to be factored in when they are making more updates and more content for these games. And my go-to is Killing Floor and Starship Troopers because, when I said that it's mainly marketed towards PC gamers, it's not like they went out of their way to heavily market these games. I said that because the people that are like exclusively PC gamers, they are the people that are more likely to go off the beaten path of the mainstream IPs that everyone knows about, like Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever. PC is a pretty big hotspot for a lot less known games,
Yeah.
which is why I said what I said. So
Yeah.
I actually was considering reinstalling Starship Troopers Extermination today to see what this update is like. And honestly, the game itself is far from bad. I think it's actually a lot of fun. My main problem with it, since the very first second I started playing it, was that it has a little bit more than its fair share of jank, to the point where, like,
Yeah.
sometimes it really just doesn't feel great to play. And it has its moments, but it I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of a disjointed mess right now. They have the progression there. They have all, like, the classes and everything, but there's no clear-cut path and direction for you to take when you actually first boot it up and start playing. I don't know. It's just a very weird situation because, like I just said, the player numbers, especially on PC, are not great by any stretch of the imagination, yet they keep on updating it. And the trailer link that I posted in the news channel, that was a PlayStation trailer. So, obviously it's got to have more players elsewhere. And consoles are way more popular than PCs, and yet we still don't have any idea of what the numbers are. I don't know. It's a whole thing, and I'm always fascinated by, again, the addition of new content to these games, because it's like, from the outside looking in, they look basically fucking dead, and I don't understand where the support's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to them for sticking it out and continuing to update the game if things are bleak, because the
Yeah.
other games have kind of faltered for much less.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Let's continue on. I'm gonna just hit the heartbreaking news, the sad news now, because we're kind of already on that topic, and has to do with Bungie and Destiny,
Boy,
and I guess
there you go.
Marathon as well. I mean, I'm not gonna rant too much about this, but it still warrants talking about because, so I wrote that the current state of Destiny 2 is honestly heartbreakingly tragic, and I put in parentheses the Guardian Games event. The Guardian Games is an event that's like a celebration of Guardians, and they have
It's
a
the
competition.
annual one, right?
Yeah, yeah, they have
Okay.
a competition of, like, who can earn most whatevers between the Hunters, Warlocks, and Titans. When the
Whatevers. Even you're
Yeah,
checking out on this one.
yeah, that should really speak volumes, Anthony. It really should.
I watched it
Uh,
happen. I don't
yeah.
need I don't need the disclaimer.
So, I mainly bring it up because, like, Guardian games when it launched to like devastating bugs to the point where the whole point of Guardian games it was a moot point because like if you were to log in to the game and go to the tower, when you load into the tower during Guardian games, you're immediately greeted by this podium that has different heights of flags, the three different flags, one for each class. And the last time that I checked, and haven't logged into the game, but I keep tabs on it. The hunters, the warlocks and the titans were at the same level, and the hunters were like basically non-existent. So either it was a crippling bug that was showing those results, or all of the hunters just decided to quit the fucking game, and the only people that are playing are titans and warlocks. And I'm bringing this up again because things are just getting worse and worse and worse for Destiny and for Marathon, because the player numbers, as bad as they are for Destiny, are still better than the Marathon player numbers, like globally.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, and I know I've said it before, but I'm still going to say it because it works.
You were talking about the Destiny 3 thing again.
No, I wasn't even going to say that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say that you just cut their losses and make a Destiny 3.
Well, I mean, yes, but I was not going to bring that up.
Okay.
Bungie's conscious decision to lean hard into the extraction shooter scene with Marathon, I mean, they had to have known that they were not going to get the numbers that they not only wanted, but that, quite frankly, that the studio absolutely needed, is just completely perplexing to me. And it's so weird because they keep on doubling down on it. And I try as I might, Anthony, I cannot wrap my head around it. And furthermore, on the topic of Destiny, Bungie put out it was either their community manager or the game Twitter account, to expect more comms closer to June, which is when the new not expansion but like the new content update is supposed to come out. It was originally already supposed to have launched earlier this month, and like as if they needed another nail in the coffin. I seem to suspect that they are just done. They're just done with Destiny, and they're moving on to something else behind the scenes they just haven't told us about yet. And I don't necessarily think it's a Destiny 3, because I have a feeling that Bungie as a studio is kind of done developing Destiny. I feel like they want to move on to something else. And to postpone everything or as long as they have, and then to say, yeah, we want to share stuff, but you still have to wait another 2 months to share anything, is just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because it's not looking good. The value of your company, at least from the public sentiment, is going down and down and down. Yeah, people that play Marathon like it, but not enough people like it. And it's too hardcore of a game to foster the sales and the community that the studio really needs at the end of the day to keep on going. The whole Bungie situation between both of their games is just a fucking enigma, dude. It's... I don't even know what else to say at this point. I really should just stop bringing it up, but I just can't help it.
I mean, just as my little comments on it. Overall, the first thing I'll say is, we had gotten word that it's like, the player numbers aren't doing so hot, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about like, oh, what about the console numbers? Well, pretty early on they confirmed that the PC player base makes up 70 to 80% of the player base, so it's just like it can't be that much higher. I will also just say, like, I mean, Bungie says that Marathon's here to stay, and you have people out there saying like, oh, it's a good game, really, but it's like the numbers and the sales really kind of speak for themselves.
Well, both things can be true at the same time. It's just the fact that they decided to lean into this very niche type of game.
Niche or not, I like we played the beta. We know what the game plays like. Like, they're gassing it up like it's like a 9 to 10 out of 10, and like, I don't know, what would you give it? Like a 7, maybe like a 6?
I would give it probably a 6.5 based off of what I've played.
Like,
and according to Bungie, like, it gets better the more you play it. We're like, okay, sure, but in a video game, in my opinion, that's not really acceptable. That's where the niche parts comes in, is when you're talking about like the reward at the end of it. And I get that, but it's just like, I don't know, to answer, or to at least theorize an answer of the question that you were basically saying, where like, you don't know what they're doing with Destiny. The
you feel like they want to move on from it, or they want to kind of, they're doing something with Marathon, yada yada yada. I think they're currently in a position where Bungie as a company can't really spin too many plates. Like, they can maybe like develop one game in the background and keep one game on maintenance mode. It would not surprise me if there were discussions going on like behind the scenes where they're saying something like, so both of these games are kind of doing poorly. Which one are we going to move into maintenance mode and, just focus on making content for the other one? I don't...
Well, Sony would never allow that to happen for Marathon.
I think Sony would be making the decision in this case. And I think so my whole thing is, like you say, Sony would never let that happen to Marathon. I agree with you only because I don't think the numbers are worse than Destiny. I think if I'm looking at the two of them, I think Marathon has better prospects than Destiny, just because they're both doing really, really poorly. That's my take on it. So I think I think what you're seeing with Destiny is they are kind of spinning wheels with it. I think pushing back major, like you've told me so many times about them pushing back major content updates, and like part of me can go, hey, they're pushing it back to focus on Marathon or give Marathon some breathing room, but at a certain point it sounds like they're just like winding down how they do content for Destiny 2. So that's my guess.
Let's say, just for sake of argument, if they were making a Destiny 3, you can't have anybody that's working on Destiny 2 continue to make shit for Destiny 2. You have to pull every available hand off of that game to work on Destiny 3 or any new IP.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I would say Bungie would need to, just because of the situation they're currently in. I don't think Bungie could reliably put the adequate amount of time into developing a hypothetical Destiny sequel while maintaining like what meager content offerings they've been doing for Destiny 2. I don't think they're capable of it. They would have to keep it.
Maybe they would have to keep it on life support just so that the game could still be functional, but it wouldn't get any new content, like maybe the occasional balance patch or bug fix. But
at a certain point I have to wonder what exactly they're doing, because I've been seeing posts, and maybe you can fill me in on this, that Destiny Rising has been getting like legacy content, like the same legacy content that Bungie says they can't they can't re-access because of the code differences, that is just being remade in Destiny Rising. Do you know anything about that?
To be honest with you, I have no idea. I have not touched Destiny Rising since the first month it came out.
You should just go play Destiny Rising if you need to scratch that itch, because my understanding is that gotcha elements aside, they're doing better than Destiny 2 on content. That's what I keep hearing and seeing.
So the last time I checked in on Destiny Rising, yes, they were doing better on content, but the overall feeling of the game, I just can't do it. It's too mobile for me. And I mean, I have no desire. I just have no desire to play that game. Part of it is because it is a mobile game, but another part is that the controls are a big part of it for me. I know you could do blue stacks and everything, and which I have tried, but it's still not the same. Like, it's not made natively for a controller or for a mouse and keyboard. And it's just, I am completely turned off by it. I have no desire.
I see. Well, I guess I can kind of respect that, because there is like a sentiment in particular that I'm used to in the fighting game community, where like between like nobody will go back and play like the previous games or like alternatives if like a shitty sequel comes out. Like, you have a lot of people with the Tekken 8 situation just will not touch other versions of Tekken, even if it's offering them exactly what they want. So I mean, I can get the sentiment for having a couple control snafus stopping you from playing what is essentially new and quality Destiny content.
Well, I can't stress enough how much the fact of like the people that I used to play with are completely disinterested at this point, and that is such a devastating blow for especially for a game like Destiny, where the most fun thing to do, in my opinion, was to raid, and I just don't have the team that I used to have, and it just completely took the wind out of my sails. And it is what it is.
Well, that's a bit more understandable than just the whole control fiasco. But we've talked about that ad nauseum at this point, of like fan base is moving on and it's hard to reignite that kind of spark and all that kind of stuff. We've talked about it before. You don't need to you don't need to put your hand on the memorial and sob quietly to me. I know the drill.
Yeah. Yeah, I could say the same fucking thing to you about the fighting game community, yet here we are.
Well, tell you what, we'll get to talking about the fighting game community, and no, you couldn't say the same thing to me, because you know what I do with my time? I grab Harrison and I go to yearly frenzies and we go play and we have the fun time. If you want
Oh
to
my
talk to
God.
somebody who has that sunk cost, you would go talk to Tom or something.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so all your moping about Destiny aside, I think it's time for me to talk about more fighting game stuff. And boy, howdy, do I have a solid chunk. Some of it is a follow up
God.
on what I talked about last week. Some of it is new.
All right, let's have it.
Okay, so I think I've talked about it maybe once or twice. It's hard to tell because I also talked to you and Harrison just casually about it on the side. I mentioned it to you when me and Harrison were playing in Street Fighter, but the fiasco around that character I was waiting for, Alex, got a little bit strange, I would say. If you don't remember, he got married to and is having a child with his childhood friend, who is like his second cousin removed or something, and people were throwing a fit, and I did that whole thing where I went over statistics about marriages of that, if you remember that from last week.
Yeah.
Okay, so Capcom responded to all the complaining online, and they said, we understand there's a bit of confusion around the story, and I'm just like, oh god, what are they doing? So they put out a side story which I read, and it looked like it was thrown together in a hurry, and they also said they would be patching out the confusion at a later date. And basically, to summarize, what this change does is instead of just adjusting the story to soften some of the kind of the tone, because like even though it's like, again, I mentioned there's plenty of different pieces of media, some are very mainstream that even you've seen before, it's a theme that's common, but instead of softening that language, what they chose to do is basically retcon the last 30 years of this guy's story. They made it so he didn't grow up with his adoptive father and his adoptive sister anymore. They made it so that he was distant with them, he never visited them. But the whole thing is like they basically, the only factor of his story, of him being attached to this adoptive family unit and wanting to grow, being inspired by his adoptive father and, wanting to grow stronger. Like the whole point of his story in Street Fighter 3 is the main villain of Street Fighter 3 beats the crap out of his adoptive father, who he sees as the strongest. And that was like his whole goal. Now it's like he was distant as a kid. He moved out as soon as possible. The only time he would show up at home was to sleep at the family gym and shit like that. So instead of just softening the language or just ignoring these people altogether, they decided to completely like wipe all of the character development from all the games he's ever been in, or at the very least move it into ambiguous territory. And
Seems like really unnecessarily difficult way to solve things.
all you needed to do was not do anything. There's nothing to really even solve. You just ignore the lunatics online. That's all. So now you have people who are confused they bothered to do this. You have people who are angry that they caved to the annoying social media people. And those same social media people are unhappy because while you put this entire canon into ambiguous territory and essentially remove the central defining relationships because of this whole fiasco, the dialogue is apparently still not soft enough for them, because you can't completely remove everything about his character. In the side story they put out, he's still like, they saw each other as brother or sister and they looked up to each other, and it's like now you removed everything but you left in like one line, and these people are still not happy. They're still online. Like they essentially they whipped the most like active and successful, I would argue, Japanese company into softening language around a trope that's been around for a century and longer, and they're still not happy about it.
Yeah, well, those people will literally never be happy at anything. They're fucking miserable.
It's so that is their whole thing. They live for the fight, so to speak. But I'm just sitting here going like, because I look at it logically. We're normal people. We do that. We look at it logically. So we're still forced to kind of look at these people and wonder what the thought process is. And I think to myself, the trope of adoptive sibling turned romantic interest, permanent, otherwise, teasing, whatever, is a thing that has existed in media of all forms forever. It's as old and common as the childhood friend trope. And these things, like I said, have been toyed with, teased, or prominently featured for decades upon decades. And I have some examples.
Do you now?
It's easy for me to go the easy route and just say like, well, let's look at some anime and manga that's a bit more niche, or they're older classics that don't get around anymore. Like you have one of my favorites, Elfen Lied. You have shows like Black Butler, Fruits Basket, Cardcaptor Sakura, Code Geass, however you pronounce it, I never could. But I don't even need to do that, Dan, because there's popular and mainstream stuff of the now that has these same exact tropes. Shit like Demon Slayer, which we've talked about at least once before because it outsold the entire comic industry that one year, however, like 4 years ago or so. I can't remember the exact. If you remember, do you remember?
No, sorry.
Yeah, but that one, one of the most mainstream ever, outsold the entire comic industry that one year. That one has it. Attack on Titan had it. Sword Art Online had it. Berserk has it. Cruise over to other media, stuff like just normal TV shows, the stuff that's more respectable, the stuff that's not niche or
Game
weird.
of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is one of them on here, but you have Arrested Development, Lost, The Flash. You mentioned Game of Thrones, and obviously Game of Thrones was a book first, so we move over to books, the Game of Thrones books, War and Peace, The Blue Lagoon, Pride and Prejudice, Frankenstein, but most importantly, Daniel, we have other games. We have Xenogears, Drakengard, No More Heroes, Onimusha, Elden Ring, Wild Arms, The Coffin of Andy and Lele, Fatal Frame, Metal Gear Solid.
I imagine you being Charlie from that one episode of Always Sunny in the basement in the mailroom, just fucking connecting all the dots.
I'm freaking the fact over this. I'm sitting here, Dan. I'm saying to myself, I'm just like, I know this is common. I know these people are losing their minds over fucking nothing, but now I got to double check because I care about this shit. I care about making sure my I's and T's are dotted and crossed. But yeah, like I said, Metal Gear Solid. There are 2 Assassin's Creed games, RPG Assassin's Creed games that have this trope in it. Unity and Syndicate. Depending on which angle you look it up, like 8 of the Fire Emblem games have this kind of pairing. And throughout all these pieces of media, and others we haven't, are multiple cases of other stories being inspired by these existing stories. So there are remnants of that. Even if they remove the stuff that they find icky or whatever, there are stories that would not exist without these other stories. And I guess that brings me to the end point, is that this is all fiction. Even if these things were as serious as they make it out to be, which it will never be, it's not real. And these people, they're uncomfortable, I guess, with fiction. But you know what makes me uncomfortable, Dan?
What makes you uncomfortable, Anthony?
The continuation of this trend where audiences make something out of nothing, act offended, and treat story changes like crimes against humanity, and treat characters like real people. And what makes me even more uncomfortable is the companies that listen to these people and make changes based off of whatever whim or whatever cause. Some online, something or other looked the wrong way at your social media post, and that's their new fixation for like the next 4 years, and they're going to be berating you online forever about it. And I call this whole thing, it's a weak bitch move from Capcom, and it's a weak move. But, like, the move that they made was so extremely stupid, where it calls into, like, I've said in the past before, fighting game canon has, like, this nebulous, ambiguous nature about it because of how they used to do expansions, and console entries would sometimes have different story. It was kind of up in the air, and you kind of, like, plucked little details to make a cohesive story, and it's, like, all ambiguously canon. This is one of the few times, because there's been a ton with Guilty Gear when Strive came out, but this is one of the few times Street Fighter has taken existing canon and pushed it back into that ambiguous, and it just did not feel good or right. They handled it in the worst way possible. I'm actually so offended by the fact that they catered to these people again, because there's been plenty of shit in the last couple of years. I talked about the localization. There's some stuff from Street Fighter 6's development I didn't like. I was hyped up for Pragmata. I'm not buying that day one. I'm not spending money on that. Trust me, I will be playing it, but they're not getting my money anymore. So I'm a little peeved with that, but it's the fighting game. It's part and parcel with the fighting game community. And for me, for the future, it puts Capcom purchases for me up in the air. I didn't pay for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. I was considering buying Pragmata day one. I'm not doing that. I'm a little miffed that I paid for, Resident Evil, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's where that story went.
You feel better now? You okay?
A little bit, but we have more fighting game stuff to go over, Daniel.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you remember from last year, but the second annual EVO Awards happened like yesterday. They kind of just snuck up on me, Do you remember the Evo Awards? Did I tell you about
I know
them?
what they
Or
are.
I told you about, it's like everybody gets together and they do this whole thing.
Wait,
and
is this about like people didn't have good hygiene and there was like this weird
No. Those are just
sex ring?
that's just your average tournament. I'm talking about the Evo Awards, because none of that yucky stuff makes it into the Evo Awards, because it's just all the old heads blowing each other and giving each other pats on the back for however long the event is. I don't even know. First, I guess I should start there. I need to remind anyone who's listening that this is a closed event. It's invite only. I can't go buy a ticket. I can't go walk up on stage. I can watch the stream as these guys do this, but it's for insiders and by insiders. That's all it is. And the first year they finally had their, hey, we finally get to give each other awards and pretend we matter. The second year, don't get me wrong, still has leftovers of that. People still have to get theirs. You can't give everyone an award on the first year. But the second year is already jumping into all the fake shit and beyond nepotism. Because, like, even though you're giving everybody that a pat on the back and an award, like, the step beyond that, you would say, like, oh, maybe we look at the community. No, they just give it to whoever happens to be popular at the time, or, strange, nasty people. Like, you have awards going to, content creators that plagiarize guides and, take from the efforts of smaller people and just condense it into their clickbaity videos. Some random OnlyFans model won an award because don't really actually look at the great, because, cosplaying, I think I mentioned, I don't think that they're not important in the slightest, but I can respect the cosplayers that, like, go nuts, like, crafting these amazing costumes. We don't look at those people. We look at whoever has higher follower counts on things like OnlyFans and Twitter and stuff like that. So, of course, they hand out the awards to the OnlyFans models because it's something about that fighting game community. Maybe it's because there's a lot of nerds in it or something, but it is sleazy and desperate when it comes to, thirsting over people like that. And then
Not
the rest
surprised.
of the rest of the awards were weird because, like, some of it's just like there's not enough to draw from to make awards. Like, you can't do what was the best release of the year. They did that, but, like, what is there to draw from? What fighting game came out recently that's phenomenal? Fatal Fury, wasn't that last year? It won an award. Who the fuck knows? They're giving out awards for memes and singular interactions, and it's like shit nobody's heard about, and it's only from players or just that one meme event, that because you have to hold on to these singular moments to make memes out of them to pretend you're a healthy community or whatever. But all in all, it was a nice moment, I guess, Dan. It was a nice moment because everybody, all the people out there that were making a big stink about the Saudis, put their righteous cause of fighting for human rights aside just long enough to simp as hard as possible for some of the fakest and nastiest people in the community. The only people who I think were consistent about their stance on, like, oh, we can't support the Saudis or events by the Saudis, are people that won awards last year or weren't invited. So I guess kudos to you guys. You didn't get in, so you stood by your principles, I guess. But, like, but it's all fucking ridiculous because, to top all this off, the FGC is still, you mentioned it at the beginning, it was the first thing you thought of, it's still one of the most degenerate and predator-heavy communities in gaming, and we've, every sex scandal besides the one that hurt the bottom line, that one founder of Evo that I told you about, who was into, younger boys, that all gets swept, everything else gets swept under the rug, ignored, it gets called a lie or an anecdote, but what we can make the time for? A really nice moment. Filleting each other on the main stage, starting witch hunts online over wrong think, and berating people over fiction, up to the point where we scare developers into changing characters and games that have existed for 25 years and longer. Fuck all of these people.
Yeah, that.
Now I feel better.
Christ. Good. I'm glad. Jesus. Survived another Anthony rant.
There you go. I know you love the fighting game news. Don't you try and lie to me about that.
I look forward to them week over week.
Now, my next thing is going to be a rant, so you should probably get some stuff in there before I get
Jesus.
started again.
Okay. Let's see. What do we got? I have not gone in order today, so I'm gonna bounce around.
Go whatever. You're never obligated to go in order unless there's like some sequence of events we follow. You just grab whatever you want to.
Well, okay, it's a small thing. So the guys who made Splitgate and Splitgate
I don't
Beyond
remember
or
about this.
no, Reloaded. 1047.
Arena Reloaded, I think it was
Arena
called.
Reloaded. Yeah. So they just announced that they are working on a new game that is inspired by Titanfall and specifically Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Now, I was not a fan of Black Ops 3 at all, but Titanfall, on the other hand, one of my favorite games ever. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like to this story other than the fact that they confirmed that they're working on a game that's inspired by those two games. And I mean, it's no secret that the one of the founders of 1047, Ian something, I think his name is, I forgot his last name.
Mhm.
He had that not so flattering moment at, it wasn't the Game Awards, it was Summer Games Fest maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
something.
yeah, like he had this monologue of, we couldn't get Titanfall 3 and like misses the Halo days, blah blah blah. So I guess he decided to have a Thanos moment and do it himself. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like we'll see how that goes. I didn't think Splitgate was bad at all. I mean, it didn't need a second game because it had a pretty strong cult following for the first game. They could have just overhauled the game itself, but I mean, I'm not a developer, so I really don't know for sure. But yeah, I mean, they're working on something. I would hope involving giant mechs that you can pilot.
Mhm.
But who knows?
Yeah.
All I can tell you for certain is that they're making it, and that the studio themselves are big fans of those movement shooter type of games. So interesting. I will be keeping my eye on that one because I need something in my life that is Titanfall adjacent because that game was done dirtier than fucking laundry. Um, yeah, so that's a thing that's happening. Let's see what else we got here. Um, Talked about the whole Alex situation. So Embark is finally acknowledging the fact that there's really nothing to do in Arc Raiders once you hit level cap and do an expedition and so on and so forth. I don't really know what they're planning on doing. Nothing was alluded to at all, but they said that it's clear that this like the current end game is not doing anything for player retention and just like an overall pursuit of mastery, I guess. So
I
they're
swear
working on it.
somebody on this podcast said something similar not too long ago,
I'm sure.
where I said something like, "This game needs more content."
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. My
Yeah,
memory gets. A little
I never
fuzzy
disagree with
sometimes.
you. I mean, I have 107 hours in Arc Raiders right now, and yeah, I know it's technically an extraction shooter, and the whole point is to wipe your account every couple months and start over again. But that's just not the community. That's not the crowd that this game is built for. Like they purposely marketed this game as a extraction shooter for people with jobs, right? Like that was like the whole thing going around the
Yeah.
internet when Arc Raiders came out, and yes, it is still that, but at the same time, there's nothing really to go after once you get to a certain point. So they definitely got to come up with a solution. They could do a lot with the systems that they have in place already. It's a really solid game. It feels great to play. And we actually talked about this at one point. It being a third-person shooter, like if you just took out the extraction mechanics out of it and just had it be a third-person shooter, it's a really good third-person shooter.
Oh,
Like they
it's
could do
great.
something with that.
It's
Yeah,
great.
they could do something with it. But I guess they got to make it fit within the confines of the framework that is Arc Raiders, I guess. So that's going to be a tough problem to solve, in my opinion. But good thing Embark is filled with industry vets, so we'll see what they come up
They
with for
just
that.
need to. I would very much like. I don't hate the game. We haven't really played together in a hot second. It's not from me disliking the game. It's just there needs to be more to do in it.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
And
So
there's nothing wrong. Like I think I said something along the lines of like, there's nothing wrong with them sticking to their guns if they wanted to keep it that way. But there will be a fall that follows, not a complete failure, but like a drastic decrease in player count, which it hasn't seen yet. I'm just
yeah,
saying,
it
at a certain point, there needs to be
shockingly,
something to hook.
yeah, agreed, totally agree. Shockingly, it has not had this huge fall off yet. Right now it's sitting at 103,000.
Yeah,
Usually for
sitting
a
pretty.
game like this, yeah, I mean it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's seventh place in the most played games list on the Steam charts, which is not nothing.
Yeah. So I'm
Um,
actually, the fact that they're talking about, like, no understanding that they need something else in there. That is a level of self-awareness most developers do not have. Most people would look at those numbers and say, "What do you mean? We're doing fine." So
Yeah.
I'd say that's good head to
Yeah, it's a good first
head
step.
on the shoulders. Yeah.
admitting that there's a
Good
problem
first
is the
step.
first step in fixing it. So we'll see what they come up with that. Like depending on what they do add, I will happily jump back in. Not that I'm boycotting it or anything, but there's just nothing really for me to do
Yeah.
without dumping an obscene amount of time in for not a lot of reward. So that's my issue right now.
Hmm.
Okay, so moving on from there, a couple different things before we get into your rant, or actually, depending on how long this rant is going to be, we can go over the Xbox game preview, the Xbox preview event. There's only one thing of note that is on my radar. Everything else just looked like a bunch of things that I just flat out wasn't interested in.
This was one of those events where like I cruised through it and I watched it again with like a group of people, and I just like I didn't take my notes. There wasn't really anything of note there as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me is like, and they didn't really show too much new. They teased with some ideas, and they mentioned, it would be coming to Game Pass, which is, it adds value to Game Pass if I still had it, enough to make me consider the
You got rid
future.
of it?
Well, I think what ended up happening was like I ran out at a certain point, but I didn't notice anything different with my thing, and I think what ended up happening is because of our account situation, I still had it when you still had it. So like I'm just like, oh, that makes sense. I was piggybacking off of you for like a couple months and I didn't even know it. I thought it was glitched.
Is that
or
when
was
I
getting
got you the
charged.
one?
Yes.
The
No,
1
no,
month?
no,
Okay.
no. I'm saying when you had your own service, because
Yeah.
my Xbox is your home Xbox, I was getting all the benefits.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I didn't know that.
completely
So like,
forgot
I
that
don't,
we did that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't have it right now, but like anyway, what I was getting at is Stranger Than Heaven. The Yakuza guys are making that game. It's like the jazzy, takes place over a couple decades kind of game. I'm like, oh, that's neat. It's coming to Game Pass. That's a good get. It's always nice. I get like a little like a warm feeling when I'm like, oh, Sega and Xbox are still working together. I like that because like they've had like an interesting relationship since Sega dropped out of the console race, where they kind of chose Xbox as their partner to put a lot of their games on. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. But like nothing else really, got me. I was reminded that Hades 2 exists, and I'm just like,
Again.
that's a game, that's a franchise that like did not strike when the iron was hot, and it just lost all real relevance. I'm not saying it's a flop or anything like that. I'm just saying like it's
people
not
love
like it's not like the headliner that it used to be, I guess, and there's just really not else that caught my attention except for the games that I know you're interested in. Well, I didn't bring up the Expanse, but it was the only other one I really took note of because number one, I know that you're very, very interested in it, and also like I looked at it when it showed the preview. I'm just like, a lot of the red flags and like the stuff I've come to expect from the AAA industry, like, it just wasn't there.
Well,
I was
that's a good
sitting there
thing.
going, yeah, exactly. I was sitting there going, well, the trailer doesn't really suck. The characters aren't horrendously ugly. The writing doesn't seem cringe. I'm just like, oh, this is kind of interesting,
Yeah, I mean, that was the only thing in the entire showcase where I was actually paying attention. And like you said, it doesn't, all those red flags that you would normally expect from a AAA developer just weren't there. We finally got some gameplay, and like more importantly, gameplay of the combat, and it just looks like a very heavily Mass Effect inspired game that is just like really rooted in realism. And like I know we're not a spacefaring civilization yet on like in our current day and age, but number one, the Expanse show, in my opinion, is like one of the top 5 greatest sci-fi shows of all time. It was phenomenal, and it was just about humans colonizing the solar system, and it wasn't even like half the solar system. It was like the asteroid belt, Mars, and those were like the 2 biggest factions aside from Earth. I haven't watched it in a long time, so I could be getting some stuff wrong, but like it was, like I said, there was no faster than light travel or anything. It was this thing called an Epstein drive, which was like a fraction of the speed of faster than light travel. But my point being is that it was grounded in reality to the point where like it was pretty believable as far as what space travel could look like in our future, and them putting that in the video game form through the same filter that the Mass Effect games were made on, as far as like gameplay and exploration and combat and stuff like that. It looks really, really good. It's probably one of my most anticipated games of the year. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's like that alone is not worth the price of Game Pass, obviously, because it's just one thing. I'll just buy it. But it looked really good. Everything that I've seen for The Expanse, Osiris Reborn. By the way, just call it The Expanse or different subtitle because that's just too much.
Gone are the days where licensed games would just adopt the title and that
Yeah.
would be the game. You got to do your own thing.
But it's like I'm looking forward to it. It looks really, really good, and I want to see more. So that's the best thing I could say about it right now.
There you go.
So with that out of the way, let's have your other rant because there's one other thing to get to after you fucking trauma dump on me, and then we can wrap it up.
So recently,
or two things. I'm sorry, two things.
So recently there was an announcement that a franchise called Blue Reflection was getting a re-release. It's called Blue Reflection, the Quartet. I think there's been 4 games. The series is about 9 years old. They're not budget titles, but they're not like massive. It's almost like an older company that you kind of have in your mind is AAA or like just a business but in actuality is more like a AA company. So they recently announced this, and obviously a lot of things have changed in the last 9 years. A lot of the issues that I complain about have come to be a focus in the mainstream and the light. And now Blue Reflection is basically like I wouldn't even call it. It's not ecchi. It really isn't. It's just like a cutesy slice of life RPG game. It's a modern day thing. It's like it does the whole magical girl trope. So like Sailor Moon. I haven't really played them just because I've never had the money. It was never on my radar. I've seen bits and pieces. I know enough about it, and. When I heard that this thing was getting the release, like, all the package in one, I'm like, that sounds like a steal. Maybe I could finally get in there. But obviously, I'm a smarter consumer than that. So I waited and I waited and I saw, and they did like a little stream thing. And, as I got into the stream, I saw a couple screenshots of what people were guessing, like, this is going to get censored, this is going to get toned down, the fan service, the outfits, all this stuff is going to get toned down. And sure enough, that's what happened. But I just gotta say, I'm getting real fucking sick of one particular element of this, Dan. and it's one thing where it's like, I always say, like, censorship sucks, it's evil, we'll always be fighting against it to limited degrees. I want it to be out of power again, so these can be anecdotes and not main things, and it can be frowned upon. But there's this growing trend with Japanese creatives and companies and stuff like that, where basically, like, if you listen to them talk, you can hear certain key words and key phrases where you're just like, this has been tampered with in some way, or they put pressure on these people. And the guy at one point says, well, the first game launched 9 years ago, so, well, times have changed quite a bit, and, well, some of the expressions that were best at the time are not so good now. And I'm getting real sick and fucking tired of hearing a Japanese creator say something about expressions or compliance or any of that shit, because I know that means there's an executive somewhere or some guy from our neck of the woods out here in the West putting pressure on these guys to change it. And I mentioned however many episodes ago, the Dragon Quest guy, when they said the quiet part out loud, where it's just like, literally, you can't do this. I think it's ridiculous, because they're old guys, they don't give a fuck anymore. So they're just flat out saying, like, shit like, they make such a big deal out of this. And by the way, about that interview, that Dragon Quest interview from all those times ago, where they said, like, actually the interview wasn't translated properly, that interview never came back. It was never retranslated and put on the internet. I don't know why. I can only imagine why that is. Maybe it's because it wasn't wrongly translated and that's actually what they meant to say. But yeah, so this cutesy little game that, like, verges on ecchi, I guess, is getting censored only 9 years after it came out. And the guy, the director, he went out of his way to basically say, like, don't worry, we're still a bunch of perverts. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm glad that you're still staying true to yourself, but the product, you're still talking to me, because, like, it's so. The frustrating thing about hearing expressions is, because I know I'm going to hear some bullshit. At a certain point, he said something along the lines of, you guys don't need to worry. See, we had the choice of just removing things, so we changed them instead, so everything's going to be there. I'm just like, that doesn't make it better. That's still censorship, And I'm just, I'm trying not to shout here because like I said, I'm getting real fed up with this, but it's like Blue Reflection, the Tales series, the series Senran Kagura, which is basically dead. It happened with Guilty Gear. It happened with Dragon Quest. The Trails series, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, Onimusha. Again, I mentioned it before with the other bullshit. Shadows of the Damned, when that got re-released. Dynasty Warriors. All these things. It's just like I've heard these terms. Changing of expressions or expressions that aren't acceptable and global compliance and like all these different terms. You know, anyone out there listening, if you hear the word expression when a creator is talking to you about their content, they are compromised, whether they mean it or not. I'm gonna lose my fucking shit here, Dan. I'm like, it's such a flagrant thing put in front of me. It's like, this isn't a franchise I've experienced yet. I'm not gonna experience for a while based on the fact that the censorship is in play. I hear the first game and the second game in the series don't have this issue, so maybe I'll go try those. Who the hell knows? It's another series I'm gonna skip. It's like a sad anecdote to me because it's something I won't jump into. It's not something that the mainstream audience is gonna like, even with these changes. And somewhere between Western influence, global influence, and like the aggressive hold that the Japanese rating board Zero, they've apparently been getting very aggressive recently, and I'm just tired of the censorship. I don't care what flavor it is. I don't care whether it's for me or not. Enough with the censorship.
Well, it's follow the money. You know, like where is it coming from?
I mean, there. You know, the interesting. Like I've mentioned multiple different places that this comes from. I think the people publishing, I think it's Koei Tecmo that's publishing, and I think they're pretty compromised. I legitimately like one or two of the executives are like members of the World Economic Forum, and it's kind of,
why does that not fucking surprise me?
It's like, remember when Cyberpunk, when CD Projekt Red did like a whole video on how they were like complying with ESG, and everyone's just like, are you just saying the quiet part out loud now? Like, the Koei Tecmo guys will come out and do interviews with the WEF pin on their lapel, and I'm just like, I don't trust that. Like, is that weird for me to say I don't trust it when these people just do and say these things flagrantly? And then, like, it turns out there's shenanigans in play? Am I the insane one here? Like, what's going on? Dan, please help me.
I wish I could, my friend, but you are just a racist bigot that hates everything and everybody.
I'm also a creep and a weirdo and a sex pest, I guess. From
all that,
I can't. I don't know, man. Like, let's see. Let's really read this translation. Some scenes have been slightly adjusted to suit the times. We absolutely did not want to cut any. Oh, this is what I was talking about. We absolutely did not want to cut any scenes, so we went to great lengths to make adjustments. For example, transformation. We removed a system that rewarded transforming or interacting with different relationships in the game. And also adjusted some of the expressions in other scenes. I just can't. I see the word expressions. It's becoming one of my like, don't press this button in front of me kind of issues. Like, if I hear expressions, like I see red for a second. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, it's just it's unfortunate, you know, because like I kind of got a lot of this rant out already when I was ranting about like the Street Fighter changes. It's a lot of the same shit there, because like when these games come out, like there's like reviews for the first game in the series where it's just like, well, I wanted to play it, but like some of this stuff seems creepy to me, and it's just like, so you didn't play it, you don't want to play it, but you left a review, and now executives and all these foreign powers are looking at your review and saying, that's the guy we want. Or in some cases, they're just destroying it for no reason, and they don't care if they get an audience or not. It's just some bizarre worldview that they have some cult-like adherence to. You know, it's just, I can't. So I guess that's my other little rant. You know what? It was, I spared you because I got most of it out before when we were talking about the other stuff.
Gee, thank you.
No problem, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, all the issues that you rant about on a weekly basis that you know you care about, obviously, which I'm not saying you shouldn't care about them, you absolutely should. They're definitely more on the under the radar type of things that you really need to look into it to understand what's going on and really have like a concise opinion. And it's a blessing and a curse for you, truly.
Yeah, it's the best way I can kind of summarize it for you is like Mass Effect 2, your favorite game of all time, right?
Yep.
You know that so like that one camera angle. It's like there's like one conversation you can have with Miranda, and the camera angle pans to her ass for like one dialogue option, right? Do you remember that?
I mean, yeah, I know that it happened, but I'm trying to think of like the exact what
Well,
like
if
what
you
the
don't,
context of the conversation was, and
it was just a
whatnot.
conversation and the camera angle panned there. That's all. For
But
one,
in
for one dialogue
the
choice.
Normandy, or was
Yeah,
it
the
on,
Normandy.
Ilion?
It's
Okay.
it's Normandy. It's funny because a similar thing happens in the Citadel in Mass Effect 3, and in the
Not
in the
surprised.
legendary
It was a nice ass.
in the legendary edition. In the legendary edition, they removed that scene from Mass Effect 2, but they left the one in Mass Effect 3. But anyway, I digress. Let's pretend you don't now have that knowledge that was removed. Let's say the legendary edition never happened. Right?
I wouldn't have known that it was removed, to be honest with you.
But let's just I'm gonna feed you this hypothetical. Let's say you knew about it, and there's no legendary edition, and the legendary edition's coming out, right? And you say, "Fuck yeah, I love Mass Effect," because you love Mass Effect, as do I. And you're just like, I love these games, you know. Obviously, you're not sitting there in the back of your mind. You're not going, God, I hope that ass shot is still in the game. You're not. But if you were, guess what? Not a big deal, because you love this franchise. I know you're a true fan of the franchise. You can think anything you want about this, because I know your love for it is true, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's say you're sitting there. Let's say it's midnight launch, or you're waiting for somewhere or whatever, and you're like, I can't wait to get my hands on this game. I loved it when I was a kid. My favorite game of all time. I loved it as a teenager. I loved it as an adult. I love Mass Effect 2. And somebody next to you who has never played a Mass Effect game in their life says to you, well, actually, the game is kind of icky and for sex pests because, and then he like explains to you this scene from Miranda, that one scene where you see her ass for like the camera angle pans there for a split second, and a developer from BioWare walks out, sees you, the guy who is extremely invested in Mass Effect, who loves those games, who in his tightly packed schedule will still find time within a year to do a full playthrough of the trilogy, or at least play Mass Effect 2 again. And then he looks to the guy next to you who's whining, and he says, I think I'm going to side with the guy who's whining and just make small, arbitrary changes to this game based on that person. Not on you, not on the potential audience, not for the lifetime fans, but for this loud person who's sitting next to you. Do you take issue with that? Even if it's something
I take issue with that.
That's the kind of shit I'm talking about all the time. I'm just trying to.
Terrible.
I'm just. It's just. I'm just trying to like put it out there, because I obviously sometimes I could sound like a fucking schizo. Obviously, like I come with the receipts. I know what I'm talking about. But you know, if you hear me rant about this every other week, I understand it gets desensitizing. But that's the kind of stuff. It's, you know, there's major stuff that gets taken away, but inches like that is what they fight for, and it works its way up to like, oh well, we gave him a little and nobody said anything, so we're just going to keep giving and giving and giving, and then you know, at a certain point I just wish these games wouldn't get re-released or remastered or whatever. Just let them sit. But that's enough of my ranting. You may move us on to something else. I know you're getting quite winded with my rants.
No, it's okay.
I'm
You gotta get it out.
I'm officially out of ranting topics. Everything else I have to say is well metered.
Okay.
So get out what you need to, and maybe I'll be able to fit in my last thing, and then we'll be good.
All right. Well, I guess the first thing that I'll bring up is the price hikes for the PlayStation, for the 5, the Pro, and the Portal.
Yes.
They're going up on April 2nd, and for the US, the price increases are as follows. For the base PS5, it's going from $550 to $650, so a solid $100 price hike. For the digital version, it's $500 to $600, also $100 increase. For the PS5 Pro, it's going from $750 to $900. Woof. And for the Portal, it's going from $2 to $250. Oh boy. I mean, I think that Sony actually is not going to face nearly as much hate on this, because they are the second ones to do this, not the first. And
well, I mean,
they have much more goodwill in the gaming community the world over, because they have just, I mean, the quality of the games set aside for now, but they have more exclusives, more of those, you know, single player story driven games, more heavy hitters, I would say. I mean, it's all relative, but they've got more heavy hitters than Microsoft has, or has had in the past like 10 years at this point. So I think they're going to get away with it. Well, I mean, they're going to do it one way or the other, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not going to be as massive as a blowback with the community as Xbox was.
I mean, you are right in saying that, because number one, they they were not the first ones to do it, and number two is they held out longer, and I think it had to do with those early reports of them having RAM stockpiles, so they didn't need to raise the prices. They could eat that kind of, increase in price for everything. So I think sound business strategy, I would say, looking purely from like trying to weather the storm of like the current market. Not saying I'm like, good for you guys, you held out and then you raised the price. Like, I'm not, but I'm just saying like they handled it about as best as you could, in a way that shook
from
Valve.
A business perspective,
like Valve was given pause because nobody was expecting this unprecedented hardware snafu.
Right.
So, no, yeah.
It still sucks. Don't get me wrong.
No, of course it does. I mean, I've had somebody came up to me and was like, so what do you think about the things going on? I bet everybody's gonna hate Sony or not hate Sony, but maybe this will hurt their sales. And I'm just like, have you seen the industry? The industry is in such a bad spot that as much as this is anti-consumer, as much as this sucks, as much as all of this is just really bad, it's not that's not moving the needle in any meaningful way, because sales were already in the gutter for everybody. Except for, I'm sure Sony will still flaunt like, hey, look how awesome and amazing we did. This is still the most profitable generation ever or whatever, because they're still making the software sales. But I don't think this is really going to hurt them, just because we're in such a bad spot already. It's not like everybody was like, it's not like
everyone's got a PlayStation
games.
5 already.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5-6 years into this console generation. I can't remember. I feel like it's
about 5.
About 5, yeah. There's not much really to say about this. It's one of those things where, like, kind of like we were talking earlier about like Destiny and Bungie, where it's just like things are so bad, there's like really no speculation you can do, because there's no urgency from this, just because of how bad things already were. So yeah, they're joining everyone else in raising prices. Although there are a few interesting side notes to industry pricing, but before we do, this actually comes with our writing question, which we didn't get to right away. Oh, shit.
I meant to actually ask you about that earlier. Awesome. Let's hear it.
Do you think these price increases on consoles is going to create significant drops in people playing games as casuals are priced out and games are not worth the new asking price for the dedicated gamers?
Excellent question once again, and I think to an extent, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but not enough to really make a difference. Like you said, the gaming industry is in such a bad spot right now that like $100 price increase at this stage of the game, when we're more than halfway through this console generation and the PS5 is already the best-selling console of the generation, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to get at, because like it does tie into the last thing I said, but with the added angle of the casuals, which was mentioned in the question. You have to factor in, it's just like, it's late in the console generation, there's nothing major coming out. Anyone who's like on the fence or doesn't really play all that much, they either already have it or they're definitely not going to buy it now with these price increases. Agreed.
I was going to say one more thing, but I just completely lost my train of thought. God damn it.
God damn you.
What the fuck was I going to say? Shit. Oh well, it's gone. I mean, the price increases suck. Which actually is a perfect transition point to the last thing that we have, which is the OpenAI situation going on. Can we move on? Are we done? Or
did we talk about that last week though? What's the date on that? I think we talked about that already.
That was March 24th. So no, definitely not.
You know what? We probably talked about it when we were just talking to each other.
Oh, I think we put a pin in it. Honestly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, because we still have enough time to talk about that, so I'm just going to read the tweet verbatim. OpenAI is shutting down Sora and dropping video features from ChatGPT. Disney was previously said to be investing $1 billion with a capital B, licensing 200 plus characters across Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars, and more for use in ChatGPT and Sora. Good, fucking good. Let them. Yeah. Let this AI bubble finally burst. I've had enough. It's not good for gaming. It's not good for the industry. It's not good for anything.
It's not really. It's not. I mean, there's only so much we can say at that point, but it's not quite the bubble bursting, but we are reaching the point.
Where, I didn't say it was.
I'm just reiterating it because everybody, bubble bursting is on the tip of everybody's tongues when this topic comes up.
Yeah.
But we've reached the point where, like, you got to remember the cost to run these things is major. It's massive.
Astronomical. Yeah.
Yeah, and none of these things were profitable. It was all on venture capital and investors, and
They were
down the
just
line,
passing
promising things.
the same money around to different companies
Yeah,
and saying that they were profits. Like
yeah,
that's not how economics works.
yeah, and like, the first thing to go is going to be these open video tools. I'm not saying
Yeah.
they're going to be gone completely, but at the scale that they're at, we're probably it's going to slowly shrink like that, and then maybe even some image generators will be in jeopardy to a certain degree. This whole thing, like, regardless of what shape it takes, because I think it's been said plenty of times, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. It's just a matter of, when we leave this gold rush period, what's the scale going to be look like? Are there still going to be free tools like there are right now? Like, if I go to Twitter right now, I can use Grok to do the quick text stuff, Like, how much of that is still going to be available? Are there going to be subscriptions for this? Obviously the open source stuff is still going to be out there. Like, if you wanted to go grab your own hardware and make your own massive machine for whatever reason, you could still do that. But this is just like the first signs of it downscaling to a certain degree. It's going to start with the free and casual and entry level subscription tier stuff going away, because it costs way too much to run that.
Yeah, I mean, bye, Felicia. I can't stand all this AI bullshit. And like, it's one thing to use it in a certain like caliber, but when you're trying to replace entire departments and you're getting a product that is far worse than you would have had to begin with for a cost that is far too high, I'm just make it go away, Anthony. I don't like it.
Well, in some way, shape, or form, some kind of downscaling is coming. It's not going to be gone completely, and then the moral arguments are going to remain, obviously. But as far as the squeeze it's going to have, this could be the first sign in some alleviation, alongside the other stuff we heard, like sales deals falling through, profits diving for the people who committed their memory supply to this. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a slow and gradual thing. I don't think it's just going to like pop overnight and all the hardware is going to come down
No, of
by
course not.
300%.
Of course not.
It's going to be slow and gradual. But I mean, as long as it happens, yeah, not a fan of this whole AI bullshit.
Yeah.
But anyway, beyond that, I don't have anything else this week. I think we covered everything.
I have just a few small things that I can try and squeak in before we get to the very end. On the topic of all the pricing and prices ebbing and flowing and all that kind of stuff, it's worth noting that Nintendo and Valve have both made moves on the pricing front.
Okay.
Nintendo is starting to dabble with prices going down for digital purchases. So, like, there will be like a $10 difference between the physical and the digital, and that comes with some pros and cons. First and foremost, I will say, like, cheaper digital goods was how these digital storefronts were sold to us initially. Like, when they took off, it was like digital's going to be cheaper.
Costs,
exactly.
No materials, blah blah blah.
Yep. And it was just, I don't even remember if it was ever like that to even a limited degree.
No, absolutely not. It was the same fucking price everywhere you went. It didn't matter, and what's worse, you couldn't return it.
And the height of hilarity is when you could go to the store and buy a digital code for the same price to bring home with you.
And you waste your gas. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You're stupid in 3 methods.
Yeah. So that's something Nintendo's toying around with. And the other caveat to that is, aside from the fact that you can look at it and go like, oh, that's actually a good thing. It's consumer friendly. The flip side, and obviously a lot of people are saying like this might just be an attempt at Nintendo trying to push out physical sales or make them less popular, so there's less, trade-ins and whatnot going back and forth. Because if they push hard enough, theoretically speaking, you get everybody on digital where you don't do physical anymore, you do it in limited quantities. You can do whatever you want with the pricing when you have full control of the digital workspace and no alternatives. So we'll see how that pans out. These things kind of come and go. There's always the chance that it slips into something dystopian. It almost never does. That doesn't mean let your guard down. That just means like the chances are low of such a thing happening. On the other side, Valve, once again, I'm not the kind of guy that says they're the golden boy. I don't say they're perfect or anything, but Valve is playing around with fixes for regional pricing. Do you know anything about that?
I heard murmurs, but did not look into it.
Okay, so basically, I'm going to see if I can pull it up because I had it open somewhere. Well, let me see. 1 second. So basically, as you are, I hear this. So you know how you're familiar, obviously, with conversion rates and how things change
Yeah.
when you try to sell things. Okay, so basically, for the longest time, people in different countries kind of got really, really, really screwed based on how the conversion rates go. Like, we're paying, we're already paying too much for our digital games, but like some people would need to spend entire paychecks to get a game. Like that's how bad the conversion rates are. Mm-hmm. So what Valve is doing right now is they're setting up different regional pricing options for developers where they can choose, to leave it as is, but also you can do a simple currency exchange, so it's closer to like the 1-for-1 kind of something we've been doing now, but maybe a little more fair. Parity based on purchasing power, so like what people can actually afford in these different countries, which might have some logistical hurdles, but good, that's consumer friendly. And also like market research sources where like it'll lay out and say like here's how things are in each different region, so I mean, that's interesting. That's good for consumers, I can only imagine the fucking nightmare that's going to be because, like, maybe I'll, do some region swapping and swing on down and get myself a cheap game, It's like when people go on vacation, they bring American money to some of these countries, and it's like they're basically millionaires for however long they're on vacation, something like that. But, yeah, so as everybody's raising prices, Valve is giving developers the option to lower prices. Who knows who will, take advantage of that. We talk a lot about how metrics, do they want the money more? Do they want the player numbers more? But we'll see what happens. And that's what I have to say about pricing. How much time you got left? You got like, what, 10, 15 minutes? Most?
Yeah, give or take. Yep.
Okay. And you said you have nothing left to talk about?
Yeah, no, I'm spent for this episode. I just really got to pee.
That's fine. I'm gonna squeak in this one last thing, and then we'll be done for the night. Actually, I have two stories, so I'm going to choose one. Dan, give me a number 1 or 2.
2.
Okay, so did you hear about the Epic layoffs?
Yeah, actually. Man, Tim Sweeney's been catching some shit for that one.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you get, like...
So not only the Epic layoffs, did you hear about the guy that had a terminal brain cancer tumor or something?
One of the guys that got laid off, he was completely reliant on that insurance that he had, and now apparently Tim Sweeney spoke up and said they're going to take care of that guy specifically and other people who have insurance issues from this. But basically, in this extreme example, this one guy got screwed. He got laid off. He had terminal brain cancer. He was completely reliant on his insurance, and because it's a pre-existing condition, he couldn't.
No one's going to cover him.
Yeah, exactly. But apparently, credit where credit's due, Tim Sweeney is apparently, even though it was under duress, is swooping in to take care of those insurance issues. But this all comes back to Epic Games laying off multiple employees, which, to go back to the digital prices, they did recently increase the price of the V-Bucks, the Fortnite currency. So this is hot off the heels of that, too, which, last I checked, the running cost of Fortnite, as massive as it is, isn't actually that high. So that digital currency should never be going up. So... Epic Games laid off about, I think it was 1,000 even, actually, about 20% of its workforce in just one single day. Apparently, it wasn't like a rug. I mean, it was kind of a rug pull kind of moment, but they got four months tenure or something like that. They also trimmed a lot of fat around the company. Somewhere they at the end of the day, they're saving around $500 million annually. Is essentially what I think is going on there, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so this follows. I think the last time they laid off people, they laid off about like 800 and something. Like a couple of years ago, they laid off people, and basically, like as always, you hear stories when people get laid off. But apparently, some notable people got laid off, like the people who handled reports for bots, to the point where people were on Twitter spamming Tim Sweeney's Twitter saying, "Hey, the reports aren't going through. Could you take care of this botting and cheating problem?" They fired one of the longtime character artists and designers, like all the way back in the Save the World days. Like he designed Jonesy, like the main character of Fortnite. He's gone. The guy that handled the battle passes is apparently gone. Most of the guys behind, as much as you care about this stuff, I'm putting it within the frame of Fortnite, but like story stuff, animation, gameplay design, all this kind of stuff. And apparently a chunk of the Harmonix guys got laid off too as a result of this, which kind of sucks because they've proven, as much as they're not really doing much with it.
I miss Rock Band.
Yeah, they proved they could still make music games. They made one within Fortnite. Say what you will about the quality and the fact that it didn't really get too much, content itself. But yeah, so Epic Games, as Valve is doing all these moves, people love to make it. It's almost like a new console war thing between Valve and Epic. But so it's an interesting comparison there. But yeah, they got Epic laid off like a fourth of their staff or something like that. I forget the exact percentage I said, like fifth maybe.
20. Oh, you said 20%.
20%. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's a lot of people.
Yep, that is a lot of people.
Eesh. I don't know, man. I don't really pay attention to Epic that much.
I don't either.
They're like a huge player in gaming. I get that. They don't really make anything that I consume.
They used to.
Yeah.
They used to in large quantities. It's kind of sad. It's like they are. It's like Valve coasts on the fact that they have an amazing legacy. They own Steam, and occasionally they make games. Epic just coasts off of Fortnite and the fact that they handle the biggest middleware in the entire industry with Unreal. So it's just like, I don't know. It is kind of a good and evil situation. I don't want to be that guy that props up Valve, even though I do like a lot of their stuff. I don't like blind fandism or just fanboying.
Right, as you should.
But it really does feel like a good and evil thing sometimes with the two of them. So we'll see what happens. I know Epic's also in like a bunch of lawsuit situations. Like Tim, he said something along the lines of like, we could be at this for decades and we can lose millions and billions, but we're willing to fight the fight with Apple. So I was like, I don't know, let the bad people that nobody likes fight it out or something.
God,
yeah. That's what I got.
Never a dull moment.
Oh, of course.
All right. Well, this is a good as place as any to wrap it up. This, ladies and gentlemen, was episode 99. Next week will be big old triple-digit episode.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to it. Hopefully something big happens this coming week. If not,
maybe
probably
do
just
something special. Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows what will happen?
Yeah, we'll probably talk about something we've been meaning to get around to for months now.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, though.
Yep.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for listening, and keep the writing questions coming. I love those.
Yeah, of course.
And until next time, which is in 1 week, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.